What's up, everybody? We're getting right into it today. We got some stuff to share. Markets are doing some beautiful things, but we also have bank failures. What does that mean for the market? We got some, I'm talking absolute bullishness. If you're ready, throw a one in chat. Let's get to it. What's up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to the BitLab Academy daily stream. We got to talk about what's going on in the market right now, because you know what? We're starting to see a little bit of action on these charts. We're seeing Bitcoin is pushing up again past $70,000. In addition to that, we have this sort of symmetrical triangle breakout on this right shoulder of this larger inverse head and shoulders. Now, the interesting thing about this, I just want to point out, is you can draw this multiple different ways. You could pick your shoulder. You could pick this, and then this, and then this, or you could pick this smaller zone here. It's going to effectively be the same thing, because we could even ignore both of those and say it's just a cup and handle, right? So it doesn't matter which shoulder you're using over here. The whole point is there's bullishness brewing in these charts, and there's bearishness brewing in all those banks. And we got some really interesting data to share about this today. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the market. We got some things to cover. So if you would mind, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. Shout out to our channel partners, Galactics. We have that $100 USDT giveaway. We already did one yesterday, but we're going to be doing another one later this week. So make sure that you head over to, where is that post? Where is it at? I cannot find it. Right here. Make sure you head over to this tweet right here. I'll post it in the live chat right now. I'd love it if each and every single one of you go and retweet this, please. You will get entered by retweeting. You get entered to win $100 USDT. And I will be drawing this at the end of the week. They did go live yesterday. Completely reimagines crypto gaming, gambling, entertainment. It brings in real, role RPG style gaming with worlds and quests, and I mean, it is incredible. Community, really great project. So I just wanted to shout that out. Let's head back over to what we want to talk about today, because this is very important right here. The U.S. economy now has 63 banks on the brink of default, according to the FDIC. Again, that's not 2, that's not 3, that's not 8, that's not 20, that's not 30, 63. Now, this is going to have two major implications in terms of what we're looking at when we're looking at Bitcoin price and where it could possibly go. Why? We're talking about banks. This is supposed to be outside the system, but all these things are tied together. We have to talk about it. Over $500 billion on paper losses held by banks, declining GDP growth with rising inflation. Over 50% of Americans believe we are in a recession. Lowest mortgage demand in over 30 years, and a record 17.7 trillion. That's not million or billion, 17.7 trillion in total household debt. This is, how's this soft landing looking? Now, what does this look like? When we come back over to the chart, we're talking about this breakout right now, and we have an impending sort of huge banking disaster. Now, this is going to have a major impact on what's happening with that monetary supply. What's happening with the printing, what's happening with the rates, what's happening with if they do fail. And we're going to be looking at all that. We're going to be looking at some altcoins as well. So by the way, if you are new here, welcome to the BitLab Academy family. My name's Kelly Kellum. I hope and I want you all to make it life-changing wealth in this market. It all comes down to what your strategy is. And that's what we do here at BitLab Academy. We talk about tools, resources, technical analysis, different coin picks, and why and what we're looking for, because I want you all to win, because if we all win together, a rising tide raises all ships. So again, everybody, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's continue on with the stories right now. Looking back over here, let's go ahead and look a little deeper at this data. Unrealized losses on investment securities for banks jumped to $517 billion in Q1. Look at this, look at these levels. This is incredible, the pressure that is on the banking system right now. What do banks typically do? You deposit money, it's no longer your money. Once you deposit money, then they go either lend it to somebody to get interest on that, or the larger portion of it, they go and buy bonds and treasuries. And we've seen a huge issue with the bond and treasury market now, but we're seeing a huge explosion in institutional interest, but suppression from our current administration on banks' actual ability to hold it on their own balance sheet. Yes, we're seeing JP Morgan buy. Yes, we're seeing Wells Fargo, you know, all the different banks, but it's more representative of their customers having access to these different funds and buying. It's a representation of the exposure their clients have, not their own, not the banks themselves. And the problem with this is, and it's actually incredibly bullish for Bitcoin, once there is regulation that does fully open up registered banks, federal or state banks here in the US, the ability to also hold Bitcoin, custody Bitcoin on their own balance sheets, I think that is truly when the mass flippening is going to happen in this space. Doesn't mean we can't have a huge amount of growth and huge amount of price appreciation between now and then, but when they start being able to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets and they're able to actually participate in the fastest growing asset in the history of the world, in addition to how secure it is, in addition to how early we are in adoption, it's going to change their business models and where their focus is. And this isn't just banks. Think about what's happening with the de-dollarization of the world. The fact that Saudi Arabia and the U.S. are now having issues with the next 50-year contract for the petrodollar. The BRICS organization, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, potentially stepping out of using the dollar as what is a mechanism for trade, but actually potentially starting to move into other assets, whether it's newly created or actually incorporating Bitcoin into that. All these things are tying into this macro impact consideration about where this price is going, and all are going to have a different impact about what that potential top could be. So yes, let's look down here at the 15-minute chart. Let's get so excited about it, you know, 2%, 0.5%, but let's also zoom the hell out and look at what's going on the global context, because it's all of it is leading to a more bullish future for Bitcoin. So when we see the pressure that's happening on banks right now, and then we come over here and we see that also default rate, this is default on loans. Remember, banks take your money, then they loan it out, but now they're seeing default on consumer loans have hit at highest level in a decade. So now those loans that they're supposed to be making money on, now people are defaulting on them, and it's also putting more pressure on their ability to stay solvent. This is all going to be a huge impact for what's going on. I just want to remind you of this. Share this May 10th. Is Bitcoin in a bullish stance right now? Take the charts out of it. Look at this right here. The appetite. This is BlackRock. This is Fidelity. Both of these individually, look at how fast that they rose to the amount of holdings they have comparatively to the amount of days it took of any of the prior to Bitcoin spot ETFs. These were the records. Look at this. This was a record, 647 days for JEPQ. JEPI took 746 days. These took not, the appetite is there. And the dominoes are falling. And then we look at what's going on right now, zoom in a little bit on the last, half month, 2 weeks. Bitcoin ETFs took in 2.4 billion in the last month. We had some, little bit of dips in those inflows, sure. But now we're seeing, 15 consecutive days of inflows, over 14 billion year to date. Yes, there's been a lot more that has gone in than 14 billion because we have to account for that huge amount of outflow that we've seen in Grayscale, and that's already starting to subside dramatically. In fact, we've also seen a few days in the past over the last couple weeks where Grayscale is actually seeing inflows again. So that selling pressure may have subsided for now, and the appetite is only going to grow. Remember, just bringing this back up, I shared this on April 19th. 40, which was the fastest, to 150 days of sideways post-halving. Where are we at right now? Where was the halving? The halving was, let's get back out to okay, let's see where we're at right here. April 19th, right here. There's a halving. Let's go ahead and measure from that date. How far are we from this date? Are we within that scope? We're right in the middle of it. 40. Well, we got to be more than that. Is it really only 46 days? Yeah, 2 months, a month and a half. Yeah, it's about 46 days. So we're within the smallest window that we had identified, right? We're right in that lower side. We could still we could inch up a bit, sell back off. Nothing is out of context for what we've seen in any cycle. If we were to break up from here, it actually would be a bit earlier than one would have expected as an analyst looking at historical data. But remember, things can rhyme. They're not going to be the same. Now we have we have an exponential size highway of capital that now has access to Bitcoin with these spot ETFs. And with the campaigns are running, getting the awareness out to other people. Softening this sort of this apathetic view or this resistant view that we've seen over the last 14 years. Now these big institutions that have been around, you know, some of the largest asset managers in the history of the world, promoting the positive sides of Bitcoin and the future that it holds, that it entrusts if you participate. So my point is right now, don't get chopped out before Blastoff because you're impatient. I was talking last night. I'm in a group, remember everybody, I used to DJ internationally. I'm in a list with some, you know, quite a few really big DJs. We're talking crypto. It's a crypto DJ private channel in Twitter. And they're, you know, I'm just, my L1s and L2s, they're just not performing. I think I'm going to trade out. Stop being impatient. We are on the cusp of the biggest, oh my God, the biggest part of this bull run has not happened yet. It takes a little bit more time. These assets are larger. And it's consolidating, especially Bitcoin, around that previous all-time high. So my call to action for you is to slow down. This is moving faster than you can imagine. When you're staring at the 15-minute chart, it feels like nothing's happening. Maybe I should jump between horses. Maybe I should go. You placed your bets. As long as you didn't make pardon the language, but I'm not going to use bad words because there's going to be some kids watching this stream tomorrow. As long as you're doing your diligence and picking good assets and you understand your time horizon and where we are at in this market cycle. Yes, this is Bitcoin, but this also indicates when the risk on mentality comes into the markets, and Ethereum and altcoins tend to follow that. That may change this cycle though, because the Ethereum ETF just got approved. When that launches, whether it's going to be suddenly like the approval was or in multi months from now, either way, when that happens, I expect we'll have a run up in speculation, a little bit of a sell-off. Don't lose your head, just like we saw with Bitcoin. January 10th, pushed up into it. January 11th and launched. And then over the next, I was like, I don't know, it wasn't that long, but we had that sell-off, about 18% sell-off, 20% sell-off. Everybody lost their minds. I thought it was going to go up. That's why it took money from you, because you're trading on emotion. So my point is right here, we are well within this still. The launch of your life for your portfolio is loading. If you have the right consolidation of money in particular assets, or you have a broad, diversified portfolio, people have different styles, and that's okay. But the number one style of your strategy that's going to make you win more than anybody else, patience, baby. Let's just be calm right now. I want to look over at Kelly. What if we already had our bull run? Some of us already up 10 to 15 for the last years. That means you've been doing it right. But when we look at the market cycles, if we can actually come over here, we'll come back to this chart in a second. Let's go to halving cycles. Boom, right here. Load it up. It always takes a second to load. There we go. So, you know, we've seen these are the last three cycles, and we're just past the halving right here. But we saw these run-ups from 3,100 up to 14,000, then sell off, then the global economic shutdown. On the 2017 cycle, we saw quite a bit of run up, sell off, run up, sell off, run up, sell off. So it kind of stair-stepped up. I think it's more likely that we'll get something closer to this, but we cannot rule out a massive sort of interim bear market within this bear market that really challenges the masses, especially now that we have big money coming in, and especially that we see so much contention going on with China and Taiwan and Gaza and Israel and Ukraine and Russia. And I mean, the list just goes on and on about the potentials that are feeling like they're right on the cusp of having major global impact on markets. So you cannot rule this out. And if this were to happen and you did not take you're worried about this and you had say mid 2025 sell timeline, then this shouldn't bother you. If you're not selling mid cycle, you can utilize that type of dip to add to your positions before it fully realizes back up. You see, we're right where we're supposed to be. This is by realized price. In fact, we're actually a little higher than we should be in terms of the separation of the price from the average price of every coin in circulation. So there is a call that we may get a washout to the downside and really wreck people that are trading on leverage, really wash out the weak hands, etc. But as things look right now, this is something I'm aware of, but I'm still leaning quite more bullish than bearish. But I have to be aware of my bullish bias and say, okay, if it does have a dip and chops people out, I'm not going to lose my head over. I'm going to take advantage of it. If you measure it by the scaled by short-term holder cost basis, which is the average price of every coin in circulation that is younger, meaning it's been traded within the last 155 days, short-term held coins, we're exactly where we should be. So there's different, this is why technical analysis is a bit of an art form. You have to be patient with it, and you cannot be absolute with the bias because of 3 data points you saw. Look at something that challenges that view so you still have an exit plan, so you still have risk management in mind about how you're looking at what's going on here. In addition to all that, remember we're talking about the banks. We're going to jump into these charts further here, but we got to talk about the banks, right? The banks failing or potentially failing brings catalysts to let's not let that happen, because that would be an economic disaster, not only the U.S. If you have an economic disaster in the U.S., it will absolutely put pressure and bring down, and I don't mean this in a hierarchy sort of way, but the U.S. is kind of like the blue chip top coin, and all the other countries in the world are altcoins. What happens when Bitcoin falls? Most altcoins fall further. Similarly, if we have a huge economic stress and downfall, or recession or pullback in markets, it's going to have a much larger impact on the rest of the globe. Now, why do I have this chart up? Global liquidity, because one of the mechanisms that the U.S. cannot, and all countries cannot stop doing, other than El Salvador, because they took the Bitcoin standard, is to try and always kick the can further and further down the road. And by doing so, how do they do that? They pump more liquidity in the market. They print more money, right? They service their debt more so from printing money than they do from managing their money properly. So what do I see here? I'm looking at technical analysis now on the global liquidity. I've talked about this a lot on this channel in terms of the angles of attack of different patterns in the chart. So what do we see here? Very steep angle. What do we see here? A little bit shallower angle. What do we see here? Almost flat. So it's kind of like deep, a little bit less, a little bit less. So what does that indicate? The bearish mechanism, or the quantitative tightening, is getting softer and softer and softer until the next move here is likely to the upside. And remember, we are in a global, we're in a election cycle year here in the U.S. and many countries as well. But the global liquidity, when we're talking about all these issues and banks, 63 banks might potentially, on the cusp of potential failure. Well, there's going to need to be some mechanism out there that's going to be utilized. And it looks to us like every situation we've seen like this in the past has been money printing. But let's sort of run through what it would mean if it did fail. What would it mean if it did fail? Well, I mean, meaning some banks or certain banks. Well, here is a date right here. We've talked about this before, but let's cover it again. What is this line? What is this date? March 10th. What happened March 10th? March 10, 2023, bank fail. Bank failures. March 2023, we had, we have First Republic Bank, Signature Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, Almena State Bank, and I think there was a couple other ones on here as well. But this all basically came to fruition right here. So banks failing, and what do we see on Bitcoin's price? This went up 59%. Now, I'm not going to say that because if we get a few, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 bank failures, this, is not necessarily going to absolutely happen again. But what is that? Let's just sort of look at this. What does this look like if we were to take this to the price we're at now? That would put the price up at $112,000. Now, again, I would not use that as a target mechanism, but the whole point here is that when we've seen huge economic stresses and banks failing, and then, the government's intervention, we also saw the flight into Bitcoin, as well as a huge influx of buying pressures here and price rising higher. And coming back to this chart right here, where's it at? This is going to be buried and burning in the minds of corporations and institutions and smart money. They already have an analog of this. They already have a picture, a fractal of what happened the last time the banks failed and we saw the Bitcoin price rise. But take that out of it. Take that out of it entirely. Maybe it doesn't matter. We see the appetite for Bitcoin more so than any asset in the history of the world. And people are, because of this, they're looking deeper into this, understanding the tokenomics of it, the fixed supply, the reduction by half of new supply every 4 years, which is what the halving is. And the type of people, the type of institutions, it is only becoming more and more bullish by the day. And we're just worried right now as prices traveling a little bit sideways, as it always has. So we need to be more bullish than we can imagine. And in addition to all this, we have stuff like this. Other use cases for the compute power of Bitcoin. Bitcoin miner Core Scientific signs a 12-year, $3.5 billion partnership deal with NVIDIA-backed cloud AI company CoreWeave. Core Scientific will provide 200 megawatts, 200 megawatt of data center space for high-powered computing operations and modify existing facilities for launch in 2025. What does this mean? Why do we care? Because it's showing that not only if anybody in your family or you, maybe you're here trying to see, is Bitcoin worth it? If you believe AI as a sector is worth it, if you think Facebook is an asset that's tradable, if you think that Amazon is an asset that's tradable, if you think that Google is an asset that's tradable, and they're all legitimate. Now tie all those things together. What do you have with Bitcoin? A network, the most secure network in the history of the world. In addition to that, you have these massive data centers, AKA compute power, which is where these miners are operating, confirming, auditing every transaction on network. All the miners are saying, yeah, we agree with all those transactions. That's what happens every 10 minutes. Could you imagine if the government had things audited every 10 minutes? Yet the Pentagon can't even pass an audit once a year. They've failed 6 or 7 years in a row. But you see stuff like this and you realize there's other businesses peripherally that are also sharing the compute power at Bitcoin mining stations, mining companies. So this is positive and also provides a new income model for Bitcoin miners, which could also offload some of the pressures that they need to sell Bitcoin to remain profitable. Does that make sense? So there's so much going on when you see stories like this and you see all the other things that we saw that we just went through with all of this data. Now let's go ahead and we talked about the global liquidity. I do think this will start ticking up relatively soon. We already saw a reduction in the quantitative tightening. They're doing moving buckets. So they're not saying they're doing quantitative easing, but they are doing it behind closed doors without doing it as just monetary printing. They're just changing the name of where the money is and being able to share money from different areas. But at some point, that shell game is going to have to end and they will absolutely need to print money. And when we look at what's going on with Bitcoin versus the S&P 500, look at the directionality of this. Now, of course, we had this big dip, but this is because something happened with Bitcoin separate from the stock market that would not impact the stock market. That was the Chinese mining ban right here. Attempted to come higher, boom, dropped. But then this still was resilient back up to a new top because the direction of risk in the market was still up. Risk in the market started coming down, started coming up. You see what I'm saying? And we're kind of sitting in a precarious situation right now. Everybody's wondering, is the market going to continue higher? Well, let's look at some of the data. Let's look at the liquidation levels here on Bitcoin. Liquidation level. So look at this, as high as it can go. Did we start pumping again? Are we at 70,400? Oh man, I'm feeling so good. This feels so good to see Bitcoin price pump it up. I do want to shout out before we look at these liquidation levels. This level right here to this wick right here. We're on the daily. If we go out to the 6, so it'll be candles there. See? Projected out. This is where we reject it again. And then look what we have directly above us. Now, this is a large, whether it's cup and handle or inverted head and shoulders. You take a measurement like this. You measure it from the top here all the way to the bottom right there. You measure this out. You can do it. Let's do it conservatively from this right here. this would take us up to 87,000. If we actually do it from the breakout of the neckline, which is where you should measure it from, about $91,000, $92,000 is a target out of this pattern. The point here is we are setting up, consolidating at the previous all-time high. We've talked about this at length. We're consolidating at the previous all-time high, very similar to what we did right here. Boom, option J. Look at this, previous all-time high. What happened to price? Oh my God, we're doing exactly the same thing? You mean I can look left on the chart and say, how does the psychology of the market work at certain levels? Yes, this is what we're seeing. And then you do the same thing here. We have two tops here. So let's go ahead and do two lines, option J, and then again, option J. And look at this, wouldn't you know it? Oh yeah, we overshot it a little bit, but then look, we dipped back down, bullish inverted head and shoulders here, came back up. Now we have a larger inverted head and shoulders, and we're within the regionally, within the same region of consolidating near these previous all-time highs. So is there anything to worry about? Well, you should always have a risk management strategy in place. But when we're looking at the data on the chart, we're just repeating the same mentality we've seen in previous cycles. There's nothing on this that I'm seeing that's like, oh my God, there's nothing that's screaming bearishness to me at all right here. Even with this level here, look at this. From this is the ETF sell-off, push up, kind of consolidate back down, created the trend line here. And we're holding well above this up here. Now, if we do dip, I'm watching for this level here, this 64 to 66, $64,000 level is what I'd be looking at as a potential washout to the downside. And then because of the liquidation data, potentially even a washout down to, look at this, 58, which would be right about where this descending resistance line is, right here, 59, 58, right? Now this would wash out a lot of people, but we would still be within this range. As it stands right now, this is looking good. So let's look at these liquidation levels. This is very high. It does give me a little bit of pause that this price level is quite high, but we have all this liquidity up here at the moment. And when we see this level, let's actually go to max liquidity, additional filter, max liquidity, boom. This shows the level is at about $7.9 billion on a positive delta. But if the ball keeps rolling this direction, we could clear all the way up here into the 73,000 region if we want to scoop all of this liquidity. Let's look at this on the liquidation heat map and see how this lines up. This is looking like there could be a quick little move to the opposite direction because of that liquidity is kind of what I'm trying to indicate. So just pay attention to that and don't get chopped out just because it makes that move. So let's looking right here. Okay. So we've got a little bit of, just as another view of that same chart we just looked at. We got a little bit of liquidity coming up into the zone, but it's all the way up here at 71,250 that we start getting really hot. So let's watch if we can actually clear all the way up into here. If not, then we may be making a run down to this $68,000 level. This is a level that if we do drop, I'd be watching for something in here with a wick, something scary down in price action. But when we look at the macro, this is an index of some of the top on-chain indicators. Free tool, every single one of you can use. I'll copy and paste it into the live chat. Put this on your tools list or in your bookmarked websites. colintalkscrypto.com/CBBI. This aggregates all the data from the unrealized profit and loss, Pi cycle, I can't read right now. Pi cycle top indicator, the R hodl, the reserve bank versus the hodl ratio, Puel multiple, 2-year moving average, Bitcoin Trolololo trend line, MVRV Z score, reserve risk, Woobull top cap, and coin value days destroyed. So we're looking at a lot of different metrics compiled together and reading on a score from 0 to 100. So let's look at how high this is and how relative, potentially close to a top we are. Well, if we look at this right here, this is kind of, you see, we had this big push up, we had a sell off, and then we have the high. On the previous cycle, this is one of those metrics that makes me still think that we're doing something more like this, 2017. which is these push-ups, sell off, not sell off, but expansion, reduction, expansion, reduction. Similarly, we're having this kind of on the way up, and we see this is, I mean, the price here was $1,800. The price at the top still up here at $19,000. So even right here, as this was kind of working its way up, oh, is it a top? It's a market cycle top. This is relative similarly to where we're at right here, indicating to me we're not only not topped, but we've got quite a bit of room to run for the Bitcoin price action. And what does that mean? What does that mean? That means that if we come back over here, let's go to Mustache. It's actually L. There we go. El Crypto Prof. Shared some great altcoin metrics. We're talking about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's also going to be an analog for what's happening with that risk in the altcoin markets. This is what we saw in Bitcoin. Sort of resistance level here broke through and launched all the way up here to the previous all-time high. We are still a huge amount of way, 50% away on the total altcoin market. Basically, it's the total two. Everything minus Bitcoin. We are 50% away from hitting the previous all-time high. So there's so much room to run for the altcoins. Right now is a time of patience. We can even see down here on the MACD. We had the, oh my God, it's going to break down. And then look, kissed, it's like, and then dropped, and then completely shot to the upside. Look at this. We had this dip right here. We had the expansion. We're getting a little bit more, but see how this is starting to round out. So let's watch for what happens here. And I'm not ruling out that we don't get some sort of big, remember, if we have some global economic catastrophe, it could cause an opportunity, AKA a buying opportunity if this does dip. But this is looking more like a giant bull flag with the start of a breakout right here. And we have all this room to go. So yes, have you made some money from here to here on alts? I remember somebody posted in the live chat earlier, some people are up 10 to 15x. That's because you were buying in the smart money zone. But that does not eliminate the fact that there's still huge, I'm talking massive X's to grow into the rest of this bull cycle. So make sure you're following, we got some more charts to do, don't worry. But make sure you're following BitLab Academy here at Academy BitLab. I'm going to start dual streaming also, I think in a week or two on Twitter and on YouTube. And I also do other giveaways and stuff on Twitter. Make sure you follow us there at Academy BitLab. And of course, make sure you follow your boy right here at Kelly Kellum. I call these out because there's scam profiles out there. Make sure you're following the one with the blue check marks, and it's Kelly, Kellam. Now let's get into what we're looking at here. So, ooh, 70,600. Now this is looking beautiful right here. Golly, look at this. We've got a bit of a trend line right here. Is that the neckline? Something like this. We're coming right on it, but we also have another view, which is this one right here. This is the neckline I'd really be watching. This is a one-day chart, and we have the breakout. I would venture to say it's more likely than not that this will push up into this zone and have a, if this is going to continue higher, and look at all this volume. This is agreement right here, but push up into somewhere in the zone and potentially roll over, test down a little bit, maybe about, let's say, about these highs right here. So if this pushes up, come down, test this, consolidate here, and then move to the upside. My point is, don't go leverage long here before the breakout, because you have a breakout right in here. If you did not take the trade, if you did not take the trade on this zone, very small time frame, then what you should be waiting on is this larger pattern at play. Let the price action do the work up into this zone, consolidate a bit, and take that breakout. And I would very much recommend that right now is not a leveraged time frame. We're seeing people get wrecked both directions because we see too much open interest comes in for longs, and then also a lot of shorts. So what happens is price action goes up, tricks people, comes back down, loses, come in here, whipsaws, get one more whipsaw, and then launch. Clears out the shorts, clears out the longs, then it moves. The market can remain frustrating as a mofo longer than most people can stay solvent. And it's because they use poor decisions on how they're navigating the space. Now, we talked about those altcoins. Let's get back over to the Bitcoin dominance. See, look at this. This is rounding out. We talked about this potential move to the downside, but there's some work to be done. It's still, you know, the Bitcoin, the price action between Bitcoin and altcoins, it's chopping about quite a bit. Yeah, Quarter Crawler says, don't forget hitting that like button. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. I'd appreciate you all joining here. We're about to hit 50,000 subs here, community members here on this channel. And I love you all for it. I appreciate you all. I'm glad I resonate with the things you're saying. You know, that we can share these tools and resources. I want everybody to succeed. I made stupid decisions early on when I was in crypto. I don't want you guys to go through that. I want to get you in the know. So this is looking bearish in terms of a likely breakdown, but a likely breakdown doesn't mean it just immediately breaks down. Let's wash out people that think it's going to break down and then continues to the downside. But all in all, what we're seeing here is not a price action that we're trading. This is the Bitcoin dominance. All you have to do, click on your chart once and then type BTC.D. Then that's what it is. You get the Bitcoin dominance. This is an indication of letting you know when alts are really going to be running. When this starts breaking down, this is signaling that capital is flowing more quickly into altcoins. So pay attention to this chart. Now, when we come over to, I saw something on the chart earlier I want to talk about, but look at ONDO is just absolutely still ripping to the upside. But I will just say on this with ONDO, I'm very bullish on ONDO. We have that size. We have about the same size, right? So the momentum is the same here. That's great for bullish continuation. However, look at how much smaller this one is right here. There might be a little bit of a consolidation in this zone right here. And all I'm doing right now, I'm only looking at the price action and I can read the momentum based on the size of the moves. Now, if we turn on some of the indicators, let's turn on the volume. And we also have the BitLab trend fuel down here. We had a bit of bearish divergence here. See, from this level to this level on the momentum, this is what it's showing you on the data from the indicators. What I was just showing you on the measurement from this is showing momentum's large there. See, large. Now we have smaller momentum. That's what these white waves are measuring, the momentum. And we have positive money flow still, but I will say the fact that we have the VWAP coming down like this back to zero and starting to round, if this starts pushing back up, and stochastic's also coming down and RSI strength staying relatively high and positive money flow, this gives indication that this may just be a little bit of a breather while the market's capital is flowing to Bitcoin right now. But if this were to break out, this may negate this sort of momentum bearish divergence. This point is, this has just been, I mean, look at this. You got to be prepared if you do get an opportunity, if this does come to the downside. Let's go over to Dixie. How's the Dixie looking? We want to pay attention to this because it gives us indication of that risk narrative we're talking about. If assets are going to pump or dump in terms of risk. So we've got a little bit option. There we go. We're just getting some trend lines on this chart. This is looking pretty ugly. This is not quite a head and shoulders because this is up here. You'd want this to be on the neckline, and this is not, but this is a head and shoulders right here. Now, this is a good thing for Bitcoin and your altcoins. If this does break down, and we can see right here from this neckline, it already has the measurement out of this this move, which I don't care about I don't care about targets and levels on the dollar. This is a metric that gives me an indication of if capital likely is going to be going risk on putting money in the markets. So if this does break down and come down here, this would be a positive for bullish price action in the crypto market. So that's why we look at it. Now let's look at the USDT dominance. We're looking at some really great signals here today because we're talking about banks, we're talking about risk, we're talking about where people are concerned potentially about putting their money. And so when we're looking, remember we looked at Bitcoin dominance. Now this is USDT dominance. So this is a 12-hour chart. Let's get at the 3-day. So what we want to see is this is that move on Bitcoin. Bitcoin moving up, right? People are using stable coins that they've had undeployed, rotating it into the crypto market. Now we had this consolidation over the last month. Oh my God, this stablecoin dominance, USDT.D, is rising here. And what did we see in the same time period? Let's go ahead and go like this. Let's do Bitcoin USD. Okay, boom. So you see Bitcoin price falling. What do we see? Stablecoin dominance up. You see the stablecoin dominance falling. What do we see? Bitcoin's price has been working its way up. Now you see this drop, big drop on stablecoin dominance, big jump in Bitcoin price. Bitcoin price having trouble and consolidating through here, USDT dominance up. So we can use technical analysis on something that doesn't necessarily directly reflect the thing that you're trading, but it gives you an indication about what may be likely. What is this? This is a bearish trend. So if this is a bearish trend and bearish trends are bullish for Bitcoin, what do we see? We see a sort of top here, a breakdown lower, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. I expect at least one more move, if not a multi-month move, if we're looking at this on like Elliott waves, and this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So if this is a case, then this is showing a downtrend right now, and we just came into the trend line on this move, suggesting that a breakdown from here is most likely, which would be a bullish fuel pump for those crypto assets. So let's head over to, let's look at AERO because this was having a little bit of a fear monger right here for people that bought in late up here. I'm still very bullish on this for the bull run. Let's go ahead and do some lines on this. Mouse got stuck there. All right. So we have this trend line, rising level of support, bounce. But what do we see? What do we see here? What was the indication of this likely breaking down? Well, look at how big this momentum is. It's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit smaller. Well, what does that actually also provide you the drawing of? Rising wedge. What do rising wedges do? They tend to break to the downside. What do we got? A break to the downside. Now we have this bit of a falling channel, but this also fell here, which is probably frustrating some people. But we have negative money flow here. We have the expansion of momentum bearishly. We have the stochastics have been falling all this time. But what I will say about this is we do see stochastics and RSI angling up right here, the orange and purple line. This is on the BitLab trading stack, which you can get when you sign up over at lab.bitlabacademy.com/Kelly. I have it linked in the top of the live chat right now. Go up there. It says 15 days free. You can sign up for the Discord, which I'm doing a member stream this afternoon for our BitLab members and for the BitLab YouTube members. I'll be sharing that link as well. So make sure you pay attention when you come over here and you go to YouTube. A lot of people forget to check here, right here on community. This is where, see, I share member only the links. It's an unlisted link. So you don't see it just by being logged into YouTube unless you're a member. You come here and we got some member streams. I'm going to be breaking down some alpha that I got from Consensus, some altcoin picks, some breakdowns on those, and some updates on the markets and what's going on. So make sure you head over to lab.bitlabacademy.com/Kelly. The link is in the top of the live chat right now. Get in on it, baby. Now let's go ahead and go to, there was something else I wanted to show you on here before we wrap this out. So look at this consolidation in here on Ethereum. Breakout, consolidation coming into a sort of deciding factor here. Now this does look like I talked about this yesterday. This does look like it could be a Bart Simpson pattern and fall down. However, there's a lot of buying pressure right now on Bitcoin. We've had Ethereum. We've had about $2 billion of inflows into Ethereum buying in the last very short period of time. So this indicates to me people, they got caught flat-footed not being prepared for the Bitcoin ETF approval. Now there's less indication that they're going to likely want to sell. If they do, this kind of would be my target. Most likely it would be coming down here on the top side of this, somewhere in the 3,600 level. I think this would be an opportunity, but let's watch for a potential breakout, a test back down, and then continuation to the upside. BNB, how you doing? Oh, we talked about this yesterday, this giant bull flag, macro bull flag. See this? Macro bull flag, target all the way up at the 1,200 zone, 1300. And look at this right now. We are breaking out of this zone. This is on the 3-day chart. Let's get down to the 4-hour chart. Breaking out and testing. I believe this is a previous all-time high zone. This is going to be interesting to see what happens right here with price action on BNB. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets rejected a little bit. Remember, let's go ahead and do a Fibonacci from the bottom to the top. Rejected a little bit. Very bullish would be rejected and come down to the 382, find support, maybe a bull flag, and then break out. But this could come all the way back down, really, to this descending resistance line and flip it to support. That would really shock a lot of people. But because of these tops in here, look at where they're lining up, right in the golden pocket, 0.618. This is where I'd be watching for ultimately price likely coming back into 628 and then, potential move to the upside. So my point is, if you see this reversing, it's doing bull market things until it breaks down back down below this trend line. Link. We talked about this yesterday. Also, there we go. It is a little, remember I talked about the lower high in formation with the lower high showing a little bit of weakness here. That's on the daily chart. What I'd be concerned with right here is if the price action rolled back up like this, found resistance here, and then broke back below this level right here, potentially coming down here. Hopefully it would hold at this level. But it's kind of interesting. Some things are performing a little better, but remember, this is why you pick the assets based on what your mission is in this market. You understand your time horizon and realize that if BNB is running and Bitcoin's running and, something else in an individual sector, while some massively fundamentally strong coins like Chainlink are not, it doesn't mean Chainlink's not good. It means the capital's flowing with interest over here for a moment. And then as that pumps up, people take profits. And then you start seeing that rotation of capital into these other assets. So be a little patient here. What would be great is for this, because currently, look at this. We're staying around where these previous lows were. If this can push up, find some support here and continue, that's what I'd really like to see, because I'm bullish as I can be on Chainlink. Now, I do want to, before we go, again, I'm going to be doing the member stream over in the Discord. It's actually going to be through that private link. If you are a BitLab member, make sure you check out these event links right here. When you see one event, hit that RSVP button. Let people know. Get in there. It's so great to have the community together. I can answer questions. We could talk, all the things that we're doing. I also shared an update to my portfolio yesterday and here, and I'm going to be talking about some things in the member stream today. So make sure you check in on that. And I wanted to give special shout out to Conor. Let me see right here. Let me see what the name was. And I wanted to give a special shout out to the Log College Middle School. This teacher, longtime viewer and friend of the channel, Conor Corey, is doing what more parents and what more teachers should be doing, which is teaching people how to interact with the future. Not even if it's not the future, there's no financial education really in schools. And this is one of the most important developments of our lifetime. It's like, and I want to shout out to all the kids here from Log College Middle School, Conor's class. He's done this, I think, for 3 years, and he's able to do, I think, 4 or 6 weeks or something at the end of each year, and he teaches them tokenomics. He shows them BitLab Academy. He gets them to understand what's going on with due diligence and how you track coins and how, so it's not just the money shot where you buy something and then all of a sudden you get wrecked, which some students that happens to, but that's a learning tool. That's a tuition for life. We have to learn how to manage what our risk is, but also taking a shot at investing in things, because you will not get by in this world and hold your wealth or even save your wealth into the future if you're not investing. And so even if, with that, I just wanted to shout out Conor Corey, and you doing such a good job of bringing this information to the forefront of our youth. And you got, kids in here investing in all kind of different stuff, from Link and Jasmine, Ada, all the way to, kids like this young buck right here who turned $1,000 into $135,000. Now, because you see this, and I'm shouting out to all the kids watching this, do not get jealous of somebody when they do this, go and shake their hand, give them a hug, say congratulations. What made you pick that? Don't go and then just go, and this is to all the adults watching right now too, don't go and just try to mimic what somebody did. They went 113,000x. If you just go throwing all your money at a meme coin because somebody made a lot or somebody bought something early, that doesn't mean every meme coin is going to make you a lot of money. There's been 500,000 meme coins on Solana launched in the last like 6 months or something ridiculous like that. So this is fantastic. Give people their props, give them their due. Celebrate them when they win. Do not judge yourself against it because maybe, you know, coming back over to this chart right to this right here, they were up, you know, on Link up 10 to 38, Jasmy 10 to 32. But this was also through part of the bear market into the bull market, right? Now, the most explosive gains in all these assets is going to come in the next 6 to 12 months, most likely. So celebrate people when they win. Celebrate people when they educate themselves. And I'm celebrating you, Log, college, middle school, Conor Corey. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for bringing our youth to it. A special shout out to the winners of that competition there. Keep doing what you're doing and spread the word to everybody that you know about what it is you're learning. Learn more. We all need to learn more. Turn off our egos. Be appreciative of the lessons that we can learn. If we lose money when we're investing also, take it as tuitions. Ask, what could I have done different? Let's not be victims of our circumstance. I don't care what it is. Always ask, how can I help somebody? How can I learn from this experience? And how can I grow into a better version of myself with patience and virtue and just gratitude? That's all I got for today, everybody. I love you. Shout out to the Log College Middle School. Keep doing what you're doing. Hope you all have a wonderful summer. And shout out to everybody here watching BitLab Academy. Shout out to Arculus. Make sure when you are investing in these different projects that you have a way to make sure that you protect your capital with the best cold storage wallet out there with 3 different factors of authentication, from the card to the biometrics to the PIN. Don't forget your seed phrase as well is also included in all that. It's the best cold storage wallet out there. Make sure you head over to getarculus.com. Use code LAB10 LAB10 for 10% off. That's all I got for you today. Again, shout out to Log College Middle School and everybody here. Hit the like button. Hit the like button for those kids. Let's see if we can get a record for how many likes are on right now. And it's all for those kids. Let them know you like what's going on there. Shout out again to Conor. Everybody have a wonderful day. That's all I got. Adios, muchachos. Adios, muchachos. And keep it coming. Thank you for always tuning in. Adios, muchachos. Thank you for being here. Thank each and every one of you for educating those little kids because they can be our friends in the future with a lot of money because they invested in the right things. That's what we're doing. Let's get it. Let's all be positive. Adios.